Hello and welcome to Pod Talk, the official podcast of the New England Podcasters Group, the community where podcasters across the region meet to inspire, learn, collaborate, and elevate their podcasting journey. I'm Anjel B. Hartwell, a founding member of New England Podcasters Group, and in each episode, my co-hosts and I will highlight the stories, strategies, and successes of podcast creators across New England. Whether you're just starting out or you're a seasoned host with hundreds of episodes, you are in the right place. Let's get started. So today I have with me right now two of the New England Podcasting Group's founding members, Mr. Lou Bortone, who has a podcast called Oh Shit, I'm Dead, the Legacy Podcast, and Ms. Christine Santos, whose podcast is called Wonder Boldly. And I just want to start our time together by saying welcome and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being founding members of the New England Podcasters Group. Lou, what inspired you to start podcasting?
The first podcast that I did about the Godfather was inspired the day that I learned that YouTube was the number one source for where people discover podcasts. And as a video marketer, videopreneur, I said, well, I guess I better have a podcast and put it on YouTube.
All right. So your first podcast was called what?
The Cannoli, the Godfather podcast.
Okay, so help me understand how Take the Cannoli and Oh Shit, I'm Dead connects to your business. Are you doing these shows primarily for entertainment purposes or for visibility for your business or some combination of both?
A little of both. The Godfather podcast was definitely just a passion project because I've been so obsessed with the movie for 50 years. But so after I kind of wrapped that one up, it was taking a long time. They were all like mini documentaries. So when I was going to speaking at PodFest earlier this year, I thought, well, I can't go to PodFest and not have a podcast. And for some reason, this legacy thing just popped into my head, and I said, okay, we'll do the Oh Shit, I'm Dead legacy podcast.
Beautiful. I love it. And so, Christine, why don't you tell us what inspired you to start podcasting?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having us. This is so fun. It's so great to be a founding member. And I started my podcast maybe 5 years ago, and it was really because I stumbled upon a Seth Godin podcasting class, and I loved Seth Godin and wanted to be in his world and learn from him. So I said, I'm going to take this podcasting class. And I loved podcasts already, and so that's why I started. And it has evolved into being a complement to the things I offer in my business, and mainly promoting women's small businesses. So I have women on the show who are entrepreneurs, maybe have started a small business, maybe are on a personal development journey. And I really enjoy highlighting those people who are making a difference. And I like to be really clear about that. It doesn't need to be making a huge difference in the world. It can be making a difference for ourselves, right? And treating ourselves better. So it's sort of evolved into that, and I'm just so enjoying it.
Beautiful. So would you say yours is primarily for business purposes or more for entertainment?
Primarily business.
Yeah, great. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my shows. I actually have two shows, Wickedly Smart Women podcast, which I've been doing since 2019, September of 2019. My first podcast I sold back in 2020, Wickedly Smart Women, I started in 2019, and Leading Visionaries. And so both of my shows that I'm currently operating are #1 internationally ranked, which is really exciting. Wickedly Smart Women has won 14 awards, and we just found out Leading Visionaries last week won its 4th award. And my shows are also primarily for business purposes. So I like to say my podcast serves my business serves my life, and my life serves my purpose. We are now joined by another founding member of New England Podcasters Group, Amanda. Welcome. Amanda has 2 podcasts. It's Amanda Russo. She has 2 podcasts, I believe, Breathwork Magic and Mander's Mindset. Is that correct? Do you have 2 podcasts?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. So as I was asking Lou and Christine, what inspired you to start podcasting?
So my podcasting journey is kind of different than most people's. I got certified in something called Breathwork back in 2023. And while I was there, the founder of Breathwork Detox said, you should start a podcast. And I knew nothing about podcasts. I hardly even listened to them, but I was like, okay. And a month later, I launched Amanda's Mindset.
Beautiful. And so what inspired you to start a second podcast?
Honestly, I wanted a place to talk about breathwork, talk about the benefits of it, but not, Amanda's Mindset isn't for that. Like, I'm big on intention and the reason that you're doing something, and I found myself talking a lot about breathwork on Amanda's Mindset, and not everybody's coming to Amanda's Mindset for breathwork.
Okay, beautiful. And would you say that the Breathwork podcast is more in service to your business and Amanda's Mindset is more entertainment purposes?
Yeah.
Or, okay, great. Great. So we have quite a variety of different shows here. I want to talk to you, Lou, now. You're somebody who has been, I've known you for years, and you've been really in the entertainment business a lot. And so I'd love to have you speak a little bit about like more of the entertaining aspect of a show and how that can impact either its reach or its audience, or even how it could impact from a business perspective, but kind of more from a sideways way. It's not really not direct.
Right. Well, again, and my podcast is also for visibility, and I do have to give you a shout out because you showed us that we can actually monetize this and connect it to our business. But to answer your question, I think a lot of reasons people don't start a podcast is they're like, oh, nobody cares about what I have to say and I won't be cute or funny or whatever. And I think you just have to lean into it. And for me, I'm kind of goofy and nerdy and socially awkward. So hopefully people find some of that endearing. And if so, they'll stick with the podcast longer. So the reason I'm doing a serious podcast about legacy in a very lighthearted way, calling it, oh shit, I'm dead, and just asking fun questions like, what would you tell your 20-year-old self and things like that.
Yeah, and beautiful. So how does that show serve your business? Exactly. Could you help our listeners know, like, how do we link those things together?
Right. Well, I'm sort of looking at it long term, like the people I'm talking with are all potential clients. And the reason I'm reaching out to them to be on the show initially is like, okay, well, you're sort of my client ideal avatar, and I'm building a relationship with them by being on the podcast with them, and it gives me an opportunity to talk with them about something that isn't business. So I'm not coming in directly with a pitch, but I always look at it as though, okay, any of these folks, any of these guests could be potential clients down the road.
Yeah, beautiful. So I'd like to ask you, Christine, the entertainment piece of yours, do you have some things that you do specifically to make sure that you're serving your audience in addition to serving your business and serving your guests?
So my audience is generally middle-aged women who are either in corporate looking to maybe do something different or are entrepreneurs. And so what I find, being an entrepreneur myself, being in corporate for 30 years, joining this world of entrepreneurship maybe 5 years ago, so I consider myself a baby, is there's a lot of, air quotes, the imposter syndrome, or like Lou was saying, does anybody really want to hear what I have to say? So the way the podcast sort of entertains and speaks to the businesses, I'm sharing other women who have maybe gone before, who have decided to take a leap, decided to do something different for themselves. And in a way that, one, which is so important to me, that is showcasing them, because again, we all have something to share, and somebody is listening is going to get value. And then two, to inspire those people like, oh, she did it, maybe I can do it, or how did she do it? So on the podcast, you're listening because maybe you've done it and you're like, okay, maybe they're a few steps ahead of me. What action items are they taking? So I always ask them to share an action item. And then maybe you're thinking about it, you're curious, you're like, what does this all mean? And you enjoy hearing stories of other folks who have gone before. And so it's entertaining. Are those listeners necessarily wanting to leave corporate? I'll use that example. Maybe not, but it's still exciting. It's just like, I look at it, it's just like watching a movie where you get inspired. Maybe you're watching this really inspiring movie, and am I now going to go out and do whatever that character was doing? No, but I'm now going to go out and take further steps in my world and what I'm doing because I've been inspired.
Ah, beautiful. So let's talk about the Breathwork podcast. specifically, because I'm curious with that show, Amanda, are you doing that as an education offering into the world, in addition to obviously having it bring, clients into your business? Do you do interviews, or are they basically episodes where you're educating and, letting the audience know about the process of breath work?
So I speak to other people who facilitate breathwork, even if it's not their prime modality, but they offer it in some capacity, and speak to them about things they have seen with their clients, breathwork transformations they've experienced, and just, it's really educational to provide information about what breathwork is from me and from other people who have offered this. Because I also noticed when I was looking on podcasts, there was a breathwork podcast and there had been no episodes published to it since 2022. Mm-hmm. And my downloads, not even that downloads are everything, have been significantly higher on the Breathwork podcast because it's very niched. And I even tell these guests, like, if you want to talk about your journey, well, go to Amanda's Mindset. I don't speak about things that are not related to breathwork, maybe a little mindfulness, a little meditation type things, but it's very niched. What is breathwork? Things they've seen, things it's helped their clients with, difficulties that come up during the process, and things like that.
Beautiful. And has it helped your business to have that show?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. So do you want to share a little bit about how that has helped your business? Because I think there are a lot of people who start podcasts primarily because it's like an exciting thing they want to do. It's a hobby, or it's they want to entertain themselves and entertain other people. And then some of us are doing it specifically for business. So it's helpful for our listeners to know, how do we connect that? How do we make a show? And in your case, obviously it's super niche, but I'd love to hear about some of the business success that you've had as a result of doing the show.
Yeah, so even it's helped me get clients wanting to do virtual breathwork sessions with me because they know I offer breathwork. I'm only talking about breathwork here. It's gotten people, even outside of specific clients, people reaching out to me wanting to find out how I discovered breathwork, what it's helped me with. So even getting the word out there more. And it's a modality I really strongly believe in. So I love sharing about it and love helping people discover it.
Beautiful. Yeah. Enthusiasm is key when we're sharing about anything. So I just want to quickly talk about my two shows. I have my business set up so that, generally speaking, like you, Christine, it's the guest will become a very high-end consulting client of mine. But one of the things I did with Wickedly Smart Women, after I had operated it for about 4 years and it was already multi-award winning and high ranking, was I actually, had so many people who wanted to be on the show, and it's only once a week. So there's kind of an exclusivity there. Because it's only once a week, I said, well, I have all of these people who are applying that all have great messages, but I can't put everybody on the show. So I actually did a collaborative book and monetized a collaborative book. And out of that collaborative book, I monetized not only for the book, but also post the book, many of the new authors became clients. It was almost, it was a little more than 6 figures, let's just put it that way, just doing the book as an extension of the brand. And so right now with Wickedly Smart Women, I'm really working on expanding the brand, not only with the book franchise, but with a branded offer that's directly for the audience to help women who are getting ready to leave corporate and start their own consultancy business. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And right now we're going to talk about this episode of Pod Talk being brought to you by the New England Podcasters Group, a supportive, welcoming community built to break the isolation so many podcasters feel. With every meetup, you'll find real connection, collaboration, celebration, and a featured speaker offering actionable advice to help you level up your podcasting skills. Whether you're just getting started or ready to fine-tune your podcast, New England Podcasters Group is here to help with a supportive, welcoming group. Learn more and join us at newenglandpodcasters.group. We'd love to meet you. All right. So since we've just talked about New England Podcasters Group, I have all founding members here. We're all founding members. We're celebrating our first anniversary today. I want to do a special shout out to Andy Lyons, who was the visionary who started this group and has not only grown it, but maintained its integrity and its, intention so beautifully. And we're celebrating this is our 13th meeting, but our first anniversary. So I'll start with you, Amanda. What inspired you to become a founding member of New England Podcasters Group?
Well, I'm going to give a little shout out to Amy Fagan. I didn't even know this existed, and I didn't attend the very first meetup, but the second one I did because she was like, "You're in New England. Why aren't you at the New England Podcasters Group meetup?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know." And I've been coming ever since. Love the energy, and Andy's amazing.
Andy is definitely amazing. So what is your favorite part about being here in this group?
The energy.
The energy. All right. Well, can you describe the energy a little bit more, Amanda? I want to go deeper. Tell me about the energy here at New England Podcasters Group.
As the breathing goddess, I'm big on energy, big on intention, and you can just feel it when you walk in the room, when a welcoming vibe. You can tell, when people want you somewhere. It's just one of those places that the energy's there. You're welcomed. The second I got here today, Andy opened the door for me. She gave me a big old hug. It's little things.
Beautiful. I love it. And the clappers. For me, it was the clappers. I don't know if anybody has their clapper with them.
Don't.
No, we don't. All right. Christine, what inspired you to become a member of New England Podcasters Group?
So I was inspired because I love coming to networking events. So that was the first, and I saw it on, I believe it was Eventbrite. I don't even know. I stumbled upon it, and I thought, well, I'm going to sign up because that's what I do, and it was local. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to go and show up and see what happens, And when the very first time walked in the door, I didn't know Andy. There's Andy Lyons giving me a big old hug, asking me about myself, just like Amanda, you're saying, that welcoming vibe was amazing. And then it's also the ability to celebrate each other. So it's a room full of people, mostly who have podcasts, but they don't even need to have a podcast. I think a couple of members don't have podcasts, but they all have their own thing, I guess I'll say, to celebrate. And we celebrate each other. So we come to the meetings, yes, but behind the scenes, if you will, on socials or wherever we find each other, on Instagram, Facebook, we are celebrating one another's. And I love watching everybody from this group grow and expand. And maybe they learn something here from somebody else, because everybody brings their own strength, and they just are, everyone's blossoming. And I just love that ability to be on Instagram. That's where I am mostly. And you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for your award-winning show, or whatever it is, 100th episode, or my first episode. It's like, yay. So I just love that energy.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you for bringing your yummy energy to the group as well. Lou, what made you say yes to jumping in to be a founding member of New England Podcasters Group?
Andy. Actually, I think the very first meeting I came to, I presented on video and podcast editing, and I didn't even have a podcast at the time, but I was editing other people's podcasts and finding really fast ways to do that. So she asked me to come in and share that. So I came for Andy, and I stayed for the family, because it really does kind of feel like a family.
I agree. Well, when Andy reached out to me, I felt like it was really time for me to get out of virtual world and into in person again, because we started this last year, so 2024. I think a lot of us were still in the post C-19 kind of recovery mode, and there was so much fear and so much all the whole social distancing thing that we all collectively went through. And I felt really inspired that Andy was willing to say, hey, enough with us hiding in our little bear caves. It's time to come out and hug and be with one another and mind meld and share enthusiasm and good energy. And so, yeah, I'm really glad that she started it, and I'm definitely all here for keeping it going. I was actually the first speaker when we started this group. So the last couple of minutes that we have, I would love to hear, and I think we'll start with with you, Amanda. I would love to hear your thoughts on the future of podcasting for you. Like, what's in your big vision for your own shows? Where do you want to go with the podcasting journey? What do you see, 3-5 years down the road for you?
That's a great question. I'm still leaning into that and seeing what that looks like. We're in May. I launched the Breathwork podcast in November, so it hasn't been a year of that one yet. I'd like to see myself still running both, but what they are exactly going to look like, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, well, that's the beautiful thing. As creators, we get to evolve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lou, how about you? What do you see if you put your little crystal ball out there into the future for yourself and podcasts that you are either creating now or might even have in the back burner?
Yes, I know. I have the attention span of a gnat, so I may start a new podcast next week and then another one. But yeah, kind of a podcast junkie. But for me, I look ahead and I'm trying to balance, okay, how can I use artificial intelligence and AI to make the process more efficient without losing the heart and soul and humanity of it?
Yeah, beautiful. All right, Christine, for you, what's your podcast journey looking like?
So for me, my business is I'm a podcast producer. So I produce podcasts for other people. And just like Lou mentioned, I think there are so many powerful tools out there when it comes to AI and advancements that it's making it so much easier for people who want to start a podcast to have a podcast. And that really excites me because for those people who want to and they have a message to share, it's breaking down that barrier a little bit. And when I train people how to start a podcast and show them some of these tools, it's like a big weight off their shoulder. So what I hope in the next 5 years, the tools are going to keep getting better. We've got to do our own due diligence to keep the humanity in it, of course. And in doing that, connecting with people, bringing more voices out into the world is where I see podcasting going, whether you're going to be audio or video, all of the above. But the new tools that we have to break down those walls, I see in the next 5 years is going to bring a lot of new voices to the table. And I'm just so excited about that.
Beautiful. So for me, having gone through the experience with my first podcast of selling it, and, I created a brand. It was not just the show. It became clear to me when I sold it. I was like, oh, this is intellectual property, right? I came from a real estate background many years ago. And so for me, I'm definitely positioning Wickedly Smart Women at this point to be sold. If, the right fit buyer for the right amount of money decide they want to come along, I am not attached to having ownership of that show. Same thing with leading Visionaries, because like Lou said, I'm endlessly creative. I don't have quite the attention span of a gnat, but maybe the attention span of, I don't know, a squirrel. And I'm endlessly creative, so I can see for myself spawning more shows, maybe even a media company, more brands, and also helping my consulting clients, some of whom I feel a podcast platform is a really important addition to their business and their brand. Some of whom I say, don't do a podcast because it's not a right fit for you, but go be a guest. Go be a guest on podcasts. All right, well, we've got maybe 2-3 more minutes left. So in the last 3 minutes, I want to hear the scariest thing that you had to overcome before you stepped up to the mic. Christine?
So the scariest thing I had to overcome, and I get this question a lot being somebody who helps people launch their podcast, is probably, I have to be honest, there wasn't a scary thing. I'm sorry. I know that's a question. I'm fishing my brain to find it. I know there's got to be one in there. Maybe I've forgotten it. But I'm a public speaker. I like being on stages. That wasn't a thing for me. So, maybe learning the technical, but I also have a technical background in software development. So I think it was a nice melding. So I don't really have a good answer for that, but I want to answer in the sense of I understand that it can be scary. Mm-hmm. And I understand that that's why I enjoy what I do, because I think you've probably gotten this already. I truly love encouraging people. And I think that is something that we all need, whatever our endeavor is. So people who come to me to start their podcast and who are nervous about stepping up to the mic or nervous about the technical, that's where I can help them and share with them, like, when they put their first recording together, it is so exciting, and that excitement pushes them forward.
Beautiful. It sounds like you are actually born to be a podcaster with your tech background and your public speaking background. Amanda, scariest thing?
I wouldn't say I faced a lot of fear myself either, to be honest, but I would say the first thing that came to my mind is just how I would sound. Like, people say I have a quote-unquote accent, which I don't. I just can't really speak well. I went to speech therapy for about 6 years. My mom and I joke that it didn't work, but that was the only quote-unquote fear, per se, that I had. But there's enough AI tools, and you get practicing. It wasn't bad.
Beautiful. Lou?
For me, I've been doing video forever, so I wasn't really too intimidated by the tech or the camera, but it was really just about outreach and asking the guests.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will say for me, one of the things that I realized pretty early on, I'll say, and I'll tell you how I realized it. I was asked to be a panelist at the National Publicity Summit like 4 years ago. And I got to the National Publicity Summit, and they gave me a badge, and it said press on it. And what I had as a realization in that moment is, as a podcaster, I'm press. And then I get to actually approach people that I might never have thought of or had been, intimidated to approach before, and have my little pin that says, ask me about my podcast on it. So I kind of overcame the fear of approaching people that I wouldn't normally have approached by having my little ask me about my podcast pin. And then people came to me, and I was able to, have amazing guests, really high net worth people on my shows, really high visibility people on my shows. And so, yeah, for me, it was like really recognizing, oh, not only am I podcasting for my business, but I actually have a new identity as press, and I can use it and get access to places that I didn't think I had availability to before. So great. Well, we are at the end. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Pod Talk, powered by the New England Podcasters Group. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe, rate, share it with a fellow podcaster, and leave us a review. It really helps more creators find our community. Got an idea for a future episode or want to be featured? We'd love to hear from you. Visit us at newenglandpodcasters.group and connect with us on Instagram and LinkedIn. And if you're ready to take your podcasting journey even further, become a member of New England Podcasters Group. You'll get exclusive access to discounts, resources, speaking opportunities, and a seat at the table with some of the region's most passionate podcasters. Join us today at newenglandpodcasters.group/become-a-member. And let's build something incredible together. Until next time, keep creating, keep connecting, and keep amplifying your voice. The world needs you. Thanks so much for being with me today, Amanda, Lou, and Christine. And that's a wrap.
Thank you.
Thanks.